A South Korean oil tanker exited the Red Sea with the first crude shipment since the Strait of Hormuz blockade, which President Lee Jae-myung hailed as a valuable achievement. A 10-day Israel-Lebanon ceasefire is in effect, to be followed by a meeting with Israeli and Lebanese leaders next week, while U.S. President Donald Trump urges Hezbollah to behave. A virtual global summit on securing the Strait of Hormuz is set to begin within the hour, with President Lee Jae-myung joining leaders from around the world in talks hosted by the UK and France. A South Korean vessel unable to use the Strait of Hormuz has safely made its way to and from Saudi Arabia via the Red Sea. And President Lee praised the operation as a successful example of government agencies working together as a team. Our Kim So-young starts us off.
The Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said a South Korean tanker unable to pass through the Strait of Hormuz safely reached Saudi Arabia via the Red Sea, loaded crude oil there, and has now departed for South Korea. This is the first time South Korea has brought crude oil home via the Red Sea since the Strait of Hormuz was shut, opening a new supply route through one of the world's dangerous waterways. The Red Sea remains a high-risk area because it is a base of operation for Yemen's Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. Since violence broke out between Israel and Hamas in October 2023, there have been 79 attacks on merchant vessels in the region. The ministry said it monitored the vessel around the clock as it sailed through the Red Sea, providing real-time information and maintaining constant communication to help ensure the safety of the crew. President Lee said in a post on a social media platform X on Friday that he had received what he called welcome news that a South Korean vessel was safely transporting crude oil through the Red Sea. The president said the operation was a valuable achievement made possible by government agencies working together as one team. He also thanked everyone involved, especially the crew, for their efforts under difficult conditions. Lee said the government is mobilizing all available resources and will remain fully prepared to protect public safety and the national interest. Earlier this month, the government discussed securing crude oil supplies while monitoring South Korean vessels using the Red Sea as an alternative to the strait. Since then, the Oceans Ministry has worked with the other agencies and the private sector. The ministry said the vessel's safe passage shows the government is delivering results amid growing uncertainty over crude oil supplies. Oceans Minister Hwang Jong-woo said the government will keep working with related agencies and industries to ensure crude oil shipment continue without disruption, while keeping the safety of South Korean vessels and crews as a top priority. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire after 6 weeks of fighting between Israeli forces and Hezbollah. Now, in a deal that is hoped to bring progress toward a parallel peace agreement in the Middle East, U.S. President Donald Trump urges Hezbollah to abide by the ceasefire. Our Do Young-un has the latest.
U.S. President Donald Trump has urged Hezbollah to abide by the ceasefire, writing on social media that he hopes the group acts nicely and well during this important period of time. The ceasefire, which took effect at midnight in Lebanon, marks a temporary halt following 6 weeks of escalating cross-border hostilities. Trump called the moment a potential turning point, writing that compliance would be a great moment, and later described the day as historic for Lebanon. The announcement followed what Trump described as excellent conversations with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu confirmed Israel's participation in the ceasefire, but stressed that troops will remain in a 10-kilometer security zone in southern Lebanon to block the danger of invasion. He also reiterated that the disarmament of Hezbollah remains a key precondition for any lasting resolution.
I agreed to a pause, or more accurately, to a temporary ceasefire of 10 days, to try to move forward with the agreement we began discussing during the ambassadors' meeting in Washington.
The U.S. State Department said the Lebanese government will take meaningful steps to prevent Hezbollah from carrying out attacks or hostile activities against Israeli targets. The terms of the ceasefire also prohibit Israel from offensive military action in Lebanon, but provisions allow for actions deemed necessary for self-defense. Trump also provided a few additional details about further diplomatic efforts, including a meeting in Washington next week between Aoun and Netanyahu, potentially the first Israeli-Lebanese summit in decades. 조영은, Arirang News.
And South Korea has welcomed the newly announced ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, calling it a key step toward easing tensions in the Middle East. In a statement on Friday, a Foreign Ministry spokesperson Park said Seoul fully supports the 10-day truce and praised U.S. President Donald Trump's efforts in helping bring it about. Seoul urged all parties to strictly adhere to the agreement and to respect Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The statement also expressed hope the ceasefire will help advance U.S.-Iran negotiations, restore regional stability, and allow for safe and free passage of vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. In the meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump claims diplomatic delegations from Washington and Tehran may meet in Islamabad for peace talks this weekend, and that he might be there as well. Kim Do-yeon has this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump says a comprehensive agreement with Iran is within reach, claiming Tehran has agreed to almost all American terms to halt its nuclear weapons program. Speaking to reporters on Thursday local time, Trump stated that the two sides are close to finalizing a deal to end the conflict.
We had to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. And we're at that. They've agreed to that. They've totally agreed to that. They've agreed to almost everything.
Negotiations are expected to resume this weekend, with Trump naming Islamabad, Pakistan as a potential venue to finalize the agreement.
I would go to Pakistan, yeah. Pakistan has been great. They've been so good. Islamabad, I might go, yeah.
While projecting optimism on the diplomatic front, the U.S. president publicly criticized Pope Leo XIV regarding the ongoing crisis. Trump claimed the pontiff supports Tehran possessing a nuclear weapon, a statement the Vatican has not made, using the assertion to defend its administration's hardline approach.
I'm not fighting with him. The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon. I say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the Pope looked at the 42,000 people that were killed over the last 2 or 3 months as a protester with no weapons, no nothing, I mean, you take a look at that. So I can disagree with the Pope. I have a right to disagree. I have a right to disagree with the Pope.
Domestically, the Trump administration cleared a major legislative hurdle to maintain its current military posture. The U.S. House of Representatives narrowly rejected a war powers resolution designed to force a halt to U.S. military strikes against Iran. The Democrat-led measure failed in a 214 to 213 vote, allowing current operations to continue without congressional interference as the administration pursues a final negotiated settlement. The ongoing ceasefire, in an attempt to come to an agreement between the U.S. and Iran, will end next Wednesday. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Although a ceasefire has halted fighting in the Middle East for now, risks to global energy supply chains persist. A major virtual summit on reopening the Strait of Hormuz is set to begin soon, with South Korea among the participating nations. Jung Hae-rim reports.
President Lee Jae-myung will join a virtual summit led by the UK and France on Friday Korea Standard Time, according to the Blue House. The initiative, co-chaired by French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, seeks a multilateral solution to secure passage through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most vital shipping lanes. Around 70 to 80 participants, including countries and international organizations, have been invited. A senior presidential official said that Seoul decided to join the talks, citing both national and global interests. The official added that President Lee may deliver remarks during the meeting, and staff were preparing for this possibility. The meeting's agenda covers a broad range of issues with a heavy focus on energy supply chains and the broader conflict in the Middle East. However, the officials stressed that this international mission will be strictly defensive in nature. The talks come as the United Kingdom is distancing itself from Washington's current policy. Prime Minister Starmer said earlier this week that Britain could not support a proposed blockade of the Strait of Hormuz by U.S. President Donald Trump. France has also emphasized the need to restore free navigation, with President Macron calling for a coordinated, strictly defensive multinational effort. Macron added that the mission will only commence once hostilities in the Middle East have officially ended. Analysts say Friday's summit could help align separate diplomatic and security tracks into a more unified international response. 정혜림, Arirang News.
And global oil prices are climbing again as the U.S. moves to enforce a sweeping maritime crackdown on Iran beyond the Strait of Hormuz and into the Pacific Ocean. International benchmark Brent crude oil for June delivery jumped nearly 5% as tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz remains low. And the U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate crude also rose nearly 4% to settle at nearly $95 per barrel, nearing the $100 mark again. In a press briefing on Thursday local time, General Dan Kane said the U.S. military will actively pursue vessels linked to Iran, including so-called dark fleet tankers operating outside the Persian Gulf. Now, amid the Middle East tensions, fuel surcharges on international flights are set to reach a record high starting next month. With passengers facing steep additional costs, the airline industry is on alert. Kim Jun-hong explains more.
People heading overseas through Incheon International Airport say their next trips may not come anytime soon.
I'm traveling to San Francisco and Los Angeles, but going overseas is definitely starting to feel more expensive.
I planned a graduation trip to Europe, but it's become too expensive, so I've decided to delay it.
As the U.S.-Iran war stretches beyond 6 weeks, fuel surcharges have jumped to record highs, rising multiple times compared to before the war. With jet fuel prices surging due to the prolonged tensions, airlines are raising surcharges at a rapid pace. According to the aviation industry, the benchmark used to set next month's fuel surcharge, the average price of Singapore jet fuel from March 16 to April 15th rose to about $5.10 per gallon. That pushes the surcharge to the highest bracket, level 33. The surcharge stood at level 6 before the war, but in the space of just 2 months, it surged past level 18 to reach 33, marking the fastest increase on record. This surpasses the previous peak of level 22 seen during the Russia-Ukraine war. Pressure on the airline industry is building quickly. Fuel typically accounts for about 30% of an airline's operating costs, so a surge in jet fuel prices is bound to hit earnings hard. And with limited room to pass on those costs through surcharges alone, airlines are coming under strain. An industry official told Arirang that fuel surcharges cannot be raised freely as they are capped under a tiered system. Once the highest tier is reached, as in May, surcharges can no longer be raised even if jet fuel prices continue to climb. That leaves airlines to absorb the extra cost themselves, putting growing pressure on their bottom line. Facing mounting pressure, most airlines have shifted into emergency management mode. Some are taking steps to cut costs, including unpaid leave for cabin crew and route reductions. Kim Jun-hong, Arirang News.
In other news, President Lee Jae-myung has reminded public officials about the immense responsibility entrusted upon them to manage public resources. Speaking at a progress briefing on government-funded research institutes at the Blue House earlier today, he asserted that their authority and budgets come entirely from the public. He also emphasized the impact of their decisions on the daily lives of people and urged them to do their best. Korea and the EU are preparing to hold a top-level summit to scale up their close partnership in times of global economic volatility. Our Oh Soo-young sat down with the EU's top official on trade and economic security.
Seoul and Brussels are preparing for a summit aimed at strengthening their economic partnership as both sides navigate mounting global uncertainty.
We want to push our cooperation up to another level and to be really working on a strategic partnership where we can focus even more in the field of economic security, because I feel that in this turbulent world you have to work with the partners, friends with the same value set, who believes in predictability, rules-based trade, and I'm very glad that we found such a partner in Korea.
That's according to the European Union's Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, Maroš Šefčovič, speaking to Arirang News on Friday. He's met with National Security Advisor Wi Sung-rak and Trade Minister Yo Han-gu, reflecting the need for closer strategic alignment.
We're facing growing uncertainty coming from our mutual trade and security partner, the United States, with its tariff policies, trade policies, and of course this ongoing conflict in the Middle East. So how do you think Seoul and Brussels can really work together?
One of the ideas which I proposed to National Security Advisor, to the Minister, was that once we set up this strategic partnership, and we hope that this would be one of the key takeaways when we will have the summit between Korean president and the leadership of the European Union in the coming weeks, that we should be very concrete in what we want to cover. And one of the elements should be these early warning mechanisms where we would kind of inform each other. But
Such mechanisms would apply to supply chains, critical materials, and advanced technologies. Another major focus is updating the Korea-EU FTA to modernise cooperation for the digital era.
Korea would be one of the first partners with whom we are doing this upgrade, and I think it would make also life for our economic operators and traders much easier, because they can use much more of the, I would say, digital functions and e-government approach to trade.
The Commissioner pointed to joint innovation as another key pillar of cooperation. Korea is the first Asian participant in the EU's €95 billion Horizon programme.
Korea clearly has proven that we are one of the most innovative economies in the world. I mean, if it comes to electronics, if it comes to chips, if it comes to pharmaceutical, medicine, or the telecommunication technologies. And here I think we are very complementary to each other. So I would say you are very strong in all sectors which are considered to be economy for the 21st century, economy of the future, from AI down to the modern health technology.
He also welcomed Korea's participation in the Group of 7+ meetings this year. The EU's first commissioner to handle both trade and economic security, Šefčovič signalled optimism for continuous exchanges between Seoul and Brussels going forward. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
There's a new hit at the box office here in South Korea, Salmokji Whispering Water. So much so that the horror film surpassed its break-even point within just a week of release. For more, we turn to our culture correspondent Park Konu here in the studio. Welcome back, Konu.
Thanks for having me.
So Konu, tell us more about this film, Salmokji.
Yes, so a few whispers about this Whispering Water. Just as you mentioned, this new movie, Salmokji, has been drawing significant attention at the box office most recently. And to give you some more background, the real Salmokji is a reservoir used for agricultural irrigation. And it's also a well-known haunted site alongside other locations in Korea, such as Gonjiam Haunted Asylum and Nilbom Garden, an abandoned restaurant. But before I tell you more, those who dare to go on further, follow me. A must-see movie in Korea right now is Salmokji Whispering Water, a horror film about eerie events unfolding at a haunted reservoir. The film has drawn over 1 million viewers as of Friday, the 10th day since its release, while surpassing its break-even point of 700,000 within a week. No film released in Korea this year has reached that milestone quicker.
The real site has long been associated with local ghost stories, with rumors that spirits are often seen in the area. This has fueled public curiosity, which in turn has helped drive interest in the film and its success.
It has also held on to top spot at the box office for several consecutive days, raising expectations that it could become one of the biggest horror hits in recent years. This is even more surprising as a horror film, typically considered a niche genre, is performing well despite the recent slump in the cinema industry.
Since Exuma, there has been a perception that Korean audiences favor occult films. Building on that momentum, recent hits like The King's Warden have helped draw viewers back to cinemas as people are once again rediscovering the appeal of a theater experience.
But the popularity doesn't stop at cinemas as viewers are expanding their experience by visiting the actual filming location late at night. In recent days, hundreds of cars have been gathering at the site, turning it into something of a pilgrimage.
We see about 20 visitors during the day, but around 100 to 200 vehicles come almost nightly. The number isn't dying down and actually continues to rise, so we're staying alert.
Due to safety concerns, the local government of Yesangun County in Chungcheongnam-do Province, where the real Salmokji is located, has recently prohibited visits from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the following day. The county also noted that it'll enhance safety measures by installing additional CCTV cameras and nighttime lighting, while seeking to help visitors make the most of their experience from the film to the location where it was filmed.
It's interesting to see people being interested in visiting this haunted place. Now, would you say this is becoming some sort of a trend?
I must say it's a trend. It actually is because this isn't just limited to Salmokji. We're seeing a broader recent trend of people visiting these filming locations. So before I tell you more, first take a listen to an expert.
The growing popularity of so-called screen tourism can be seen as a new trend in Korea. One of the reasons behind this is that people are trying to extend the kind of excitement they get from watching films in theaters by seeking different types of experiences connected to what they see on screen.
The critic added that the surge in visitors to Yeonghwa-gun County is another example of this trend, with many people traveling there after watching The King's Warden, a recent box office hit. The number of visitors to Yeonghwa increased by around 90% in the first 3 months of this year compared to the same period last year. And that's expected to continue with more festivals and tourism promotion programs underway.
Kanu, it's been a while. The last time we saw a horror movie becoming this popular. How popular is this Salmokji film compared to other horror films?
Yes, so Salmokji reached 1 million viewers, as I mentioned, in just 10 days, a pace comparable to the 2019 horror film Metamorphosis, which hit the same mark on its 8th day of release. Metamorphosis went on to attract around 1.8 million viewers in total, so attention is on whether Salmokji will be able to surpass that number. What's also notable is that Salmokji is breaking the long-standing notion that horror films perform best during the peak summer season. In terms of profitability, Salmokji had a pre-ad break-even point of over $2 million, a threshold that it has reportedly already surpassed. And a similar case is the 2018 film Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, which gathered around 2.67 million viewers in spring 8 years ago. And the film's pre-advertising break-even point was a little over $740,000, which is the production budget. So the question now is whether Salmokji will turn into a major hit just like Gonjiam, which significantly exceeded its break-even point.
All right, Kanu, thanks for the coverage as always. I'll see you next Friday.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Unlike today's cooler weather, it'll feel like early summer again tomorrow, with temperatures rising above 25 degrees Celsius. Seoul will see daytime highs of around 27 degrees with large temperature swings, so please take care. It's still raining, but the rain is tapering off at different times across the country, easing up in Chungcheongdo province by tonight, in the southern regions by tomorrow morning, and on Jeju Island by tomorrow afternoon. Mountainous areas of Jeju Island could see over 100 millimeters of rain, with heavy downpours of 20 to 30 millimeters per hour at times. The southern regions will see around 5 to 50 millimeters, while Chungcheongdo province will see less than 5 millimeters. Strong winds are also expected on Jeju Island and along the southern coast, with wind gusts reaching 15 to 20 meters per second. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 10 degrees, Chuncheon at 8 degrees, Busan at 15 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 27 degrees, Daejeon at 26 degrees, Daegu at 25 degrees. Looking ahead, daytime highs across the country will climb back above 25 degrees, bringing back warm, almost early summer-like weather. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.
아리랑 TV 창립 30주년을 진심으로 축하드립니다. 전 세계로 뻗어나가는 아리랑 TV인데요. 외국에서도 이렇게 아리랑 TV에서 나오는 것을 보면 아, 우리 아리랑 TV가 세계와 대한민국을 이어주고 있구나 반가운 마음을, 기쁨을 감추지 못하게 됩니다. 진심으로 축하드리고요.
앞으로도 아리랑 TV가 국제 문화 교류의 허브로서 또 멋진 역할 잘 해 나가시기를 응원하겠습니다.
제가 전 세계 어디를 가서 연주를 하든 TV를 틀면 항상 아리랑 TV가 있어서 너무너무 자랑스럽거든요. 앞으로도 한국인의 정서와 문화를 연결해주는 그런 허브 역할을 해주시는 그런 TV가 되길 진심으로 기원합니다.
난 상관없어요. 먹으면 여기 밟고 떠날래요. 우리 가득 있잖아. 큰 소리는 무서워. 으로 끝나는
from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% rate in April.
Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences.
Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with this locally developed Korean rocket.
Arirang. Knock knock. The magical door to the world of K-animation is swinging wide open. Meet your instant new BFF, the adorable Catch. Tina Ping will have you hooked from the very first glance. Need a hand? Our Robocar Pony Rescue team is always zooming in to save the day. How about tagging along on Pinkfong and Pal's super exciting quest to reclaim their lost magic? With the mysterious life forms Cabion by your side, you can become a Cabion master and save humanity like the total hero. Protecting children's innocence while igniting their boundless imaginations. That's the magic of Korean animation. K-animation, the ultimate bestie for kids worldwide.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyeon. Lately, we've been seeing a clear shift in how conflicts are being fought around the world. From Ukraine to the Middle East, recent wars are revealing new patterns on the battlefield. Low-cost drones are being used more aggressively, and artificial intelligence is starting to play a bigger role in real-time decision-making. These changes are also reshaping how militaries prepare and how countries compete in the global defense market. For South Korea, that brings both opportunity and risks. Demand for Korean weapons is growing, but so are the strategic considerations that come with it. So where does Korea stand right now, and what needs to happen next to stay competitive? For more on this, we invite Brian Clark, Senior Fellow and Director of the Center for Defense Concepts and Technology at the Hudson Institute. Welcome, Dr. Clark.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And also joining us is Ji-Hoon Yoo, Research Fellow at the Korea Institute for Defense Analysis and a former ROK Navy commander. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me here.
So let's start a discussion right away with Dr. Clark. So from the broader perspective, how are the wars like Ukraine and the Middle East different from the traditional conventional wars? And what are the key changes shaping the future warfare?
Well, I think one of the things that we've seen is this proliferation of weapons technology across all the players in these conflicts. So it used to be that the U.S. and modern militaries had a corner on the market on high-end weapons and precision weapons, long-range strike systems. And you can see now with what's happened in Ukraine and in the Middle East that basically all the belligerents have access to the same basic technologies for long-range strike, autonomous weapons, and also networks and sensing that allow them to execute operations at scale and at high tempo. And what that's meant is that now the competition in warfare is less about the technology that you're able to bring to the battlefield and more about how quickly you can adapt it and create new dilemmas for your opponent. You see this in Ukraine right now, where they're having to update the software for their drones, the software for their sensing systems and their communications on a weekly, if not more frequent basis, just to stay ahead of the Russians. And on both sides, they're mounting this move, counter move competition. And this is because of the advent of digital technology, and it's because all these both sides have the same kinds of technologies, and they can now employ it in more of an adaptation competition than a technology competition.
Oh, adaptation competition, it's a very crucial way to put it. Now, when we bring in Dr. Yoo into the conversation as well, how well prepared do you think is South Korea's military for these kinds of changes that Dr. Clark has mentioned, and what are the most urgent gaps?
Well, I think that the South Korean military is still very strong in the traditional areas of the warfare. It has solid conventional firepower, a high level of readiness and a strong domestic defense industrial base. So I would not say that South Korea lacks military capability. The real question is whether it is adapting quickly enough to battlefield that is now being shaped by drones, AI-enabled targeting, electronic warfare, and real-time sensor-to-shooter integration. So in this sense, I would say that South Korea is in an important transition period. It is not unprepared, but it is also not yet fully optimized for this new style of warfare. What needs the most attention now is expanding low-cost unmanned systems that can be deployed at scale, building a more layered and cost-effective counter-drone architecture, and improving joint integration so that information and firepower can be connected much faster across the services. At the same time, doctrine, training, and acquisition also needed to move faster. In future warfare, I think the side that adapts faster will often have the advantages.
Indeed. Now, speaking of, low-cost unmanned systems, in many of the recent conflicts, we're seeing low-cost drones undermining the effectiveness of high-end, multi-million-dollar air defense systems. Dr. Clark, how can countries ensure cost-effective defense against this threat?
Well, one of the things we've seen is transition to using drones to fight off other drones. So the introduction of low-cost drone technology has certainly benefited the offense initially, but we're starting to see, especially in Ukraine, the introduction of drone defenders. So interceptor drones that will go up and run into or blow up around the drones that might be coming in to attack them. That's been a recent change in the Ukraine conflict. So over the last 3 months, Ukraine has driven down the success rate of Russian Shahed and Garan drones down to about 15% from about 30% at the end of last year. So that reduction in about half is because of the introduction of these interceptor drones. So technologies like drones, directed energy, so lasers and electronic warfare, are giving defenders a better ability to counter low-cost drones, especially by taking advantage of the fact that the drones don't have hardened electronics and maybe don't have alternative ways of navigating beyond GPS. So by jamming those GPS signals, by jamming the communication signals, or by attacking the drone itself, these drones are vulnerable to those kinds of measures, which allows the militaries to not have to use a high-end interceptor weapon.
So it seems we really have to deeply understand the nature of these new technologies moving forward. But as for South Korea, Cheongung-2 is gaining attention for its cost performance. How could systems like this change global standards, Dr. Yu?
Well, I think that systems like Cheongung-2 are drawing attention because they reflect a broader change in how military capability is judged. In the past, as you know, many countries tended to focus mainly on whether a system represented the highest level of technology. But recent conflicts have shown that a real military effectiveness is not just about having the most advanced system on paper. It is also about whether that system is affordable, sustainable over time, and available in large enough numbers to be used when it really matters. So I think the cost of performance is becoming a much more important standard in the defense market. A system that is reliable, effective, and affordable enough to be fielded at scale can in many cases be more valuable than a much more expensive systems that is harder to buy and sustain in large numbers. In other words, countries are now looking not only at how advanced the weapon is, but also at whether it can actually deliver meaningful combat value in real operational conditions. From that perspective, I think that the Cheongung-2 means more than just a successful Korean defense expert. I think it points to a future in which military capability will be judged more by balance between performance, price, the ability to deploy it in large numbers, and long-term sustainability. And for South Korea, that creates important opportunities. It means that Korea can position itself as a country that offers not just advanced technology, but credible and practical military capability at a realistic cost.
So let's hope it could pave the way for more cost-efficient technologies moving forward. But lately, Dr. Clark, we're also seeing AI play a bigger role on the battlefield as well. How far do you see the role of AI expanding in future warfare?
Well, I see AI getting used most prominently in command and control systems. Right now, the U.S. has been using AI-enabled software as part of the Maven Smart system in its mission planning in Iran. And they've been able to transition from a cycle for planning that runs about 18 hours to now running those cycles in just a couple of hours, and being able to transition from striking a few hundred targets in a planning cycle to attacking thousands of targets in the planning cycle. Because the AI-enabled tools will help you to take a set of targets you're trying to address and quickly develop plans for being able to address them or counter them with the available aircraft, ships, and weapons that you have on hand. So this ability to rapidly plan operations increases the tempo, and it gives the commander more options for how they build a kill chain to go after targets. So it gives you this adaptability that makes it harder for the enemy to defend against, and it gives you the scale to be able to mount operations in a way that might overwhelm your enemy's defenses. So that's the biggest thing I see now. And then secondarily, we're seeing AI get employed as part of the decision-making systems that are on board autonomous weapons, whether it's a missile or a drone. Those AI-enabled systems are helping those drones counter the electronic warfare and other measures that an opponent might mount against them. So, for example, you can use an AI to help the drone predict its location even when its GPS is jammed by using other sensors like visual sensors or radio frequency sensors.
Right, so clearly it's providing us a lot of more convenience when we use AI, but there are also concerns that South Korea's AI-based combat systems are still in the early stages relatively. Dr. Yu, what do you think is the biggest obstacle to a full deployment?
I think the biggest obstacle is not really the AI technology itself. In many cases, the harder part is creating the right military environment for AI to work properly and reliably. AI-based combat systems need good data, stable communications, trusted command systems, and realistic trainings. If those basic conditions are weak, then even very advanced AI will not turn into real combat capability. For South Korea, this matters even more because any future conflict on the Korean Peninsula would move very quickly, become highly dangerous very early, and likely face heavy electronic interference. That means that AI system must keep working even under jamming, disrupted communications, and severe time pressures. So a real challenge is how to integrate AI into actual operations. South Korea needs shared data systems, better interoperability, more repeated field training, and clearer doctrine on how human commanders and AI systems should work together. So I think that the issue is not whether South Korea understands the importance of AI. The real question should be whether it can turn AI from a promising idea into a dependable wartime capability.
So it suggests that Korea still has some ground to cover in that area. Meanwhile, the conflict following the U.S.-Iran conflict, Middle Eastern countries have been requesting faster delivery of South Korean weapons, raising the profile of K-defense exports. But it also, on the other side, raises concerns about being drawn into regional conflicts as well. Dr. Yu, how should Korea manage these risks?
Well, I think South Korea needs to approach this issue very carefully and strategically. I mean, defense experts today are no longer just about trade or industrial policy. They can also create political expectations, strategic exposures, and sometimes the pressure for deeper involvement in regional security issues. So while the growing demand for Korean weapons is clearly an opportunity, it also brings risks that need to be managed very carefully. So I think that South Korea needs to pay much closer attention to political and strategic risk before making major export decisions, especially in unstable regions. It also needs to keep a very clear line between exporting weapons and making actual security commitment, because arms sales should not automatically create confusion about South Korea's direct role in a future conflict. At the same time, South Korea should avoid relying too heavily on any one market and continue to diversify its export portfolio. In the end, South Korea should keep expanding key defense exports, but in a way that protects its strategic autonomy and avoids unwanted political entanglement.
Definitely. A very important point, drawing a line between security commitment and exports. It would be very important. Now, specifically, South Korean shipyard took on maintenance, repair and overhaul work for U.S. naval vessels recently. Dr. Clark, what significance do you think it carries within the global defense supply chain?
Well, it's a major change. In the past, U.S. Military ships have only gone into a few shipyards in Singapore and the Philippines and Japan for maintenance and repair. And now bringing Korea into that mix as well gives U.S. forces more places they can go for support and expands the capacity available to them. It also allows more cooperation between U.S. and Korean shipbuilding and ship design agents, because now we have to share information regarding the construction and design of U.S. ships that are pulling in for maintenance in Korea shipyards. And it can be a starting point for Korean shipyards to do more support for U.S. military forces. Beyond what's happening in Korea, there's also the Hanwha shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that is going to be constructing naval support ships for the United States and may build other ships in the future.
Definitely. Now, finally, before we conclude our discussion tonight, over the next decade, Dr. Yu, what should South Korea prioritize to become a leading defense power globally?
I think that over the next decade, South Korea should aim to become more than just a leading arms supplier. I mean, it should grow into a country with a genuine strategic influence as a defense power that may require a combination of a military strength, technological progress, and a durable industrial base. In the years ahead, being a defense power will not simply be about manufacturing sophisticated weapons. It will also depend on how quickly a country can adjust, how long it can sustain combat operations, and how effectively it can support allied security frameworks. To move in that direction, I think that South Korea needs a more balanced and layered military postures. It should not depend only on expensive top-tier platforms, but also integrate drones, loitering munitions, and lower-cost defensive assets. It also needs to speed up the use of AI, as we discussed, in command systems and in cooperation between human operators and autonomous tools. Just as importantly, South Korea needs, larger ammunition reserves, stronger repair and maintenance systems, and the ability to expand output rapidly during a crisis, because, industrial staying power has now become part of the deterrence. At the same time, overseas arms sales should be handled with a broader strategic mindset, not viewed only through a business lens. If South Korea can bring together innovations, mass production capacity, close alliance coordinations, and consistent long-term planning, it will be well placed to emerge as a truly global defense power in the next decade.
Right. So in a nutshell, it kind of circles back to what we've discussed in the beginning, how much we adjust and adapt to the new definition of defense power. We'll have to keep close tabs on how our defense capabilities would move forward. But as for now, we'll have to leave our discussion right here tonight. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Yu.
Thank you very much.
And of course, Dr. Clark as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
Yeah, we got those tropical notes. I've been studying Seoul for over a decade and searching for the perfect